All right. Hello, hello, and good evening. Welcome to the Tyrus Tillman Show. I am your host for the evening, Tyrus Tillman, and we are joined tonight with a very special guest right here in Augusta, Richmond County, one of our top law enforcement officers for our area, and he's doing a phenomenal job. But it sounds like it's time for you all to join the conversation on what else we can do around here to create a safer and better Augusta. So I'm not going to delay things tonight. I definitely want everybody to engage, join the conversation, ask your questions, enter your comments, share your ideas, and just join in with us as we just sit back and have a conversation about our community. All right. So without further delay, I'm going to bring on our special guest for tonight, none other than Richmond County Sheriff Eugene Brantley. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Tyrus. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, for being a part of the show, and having a conversation with us, especially when so many of us are intrigued by the work that you're doing. But we definitely know that there's a lot of work to be done, and we want to be a part of that conversation, but not just to talk about it, but to be about it. And so we want to talk to you tonight on just that. So as we kind of open up here and get started with everything, tell us a little bit about yourself for those of you who must have been hiding under a rock and don't know anything about you. Tell us, just give us your quick elevator speech.
Okay, well, I've been in law enforcement now for 25 years next month. I started off with Richmond County back in 2000. I worked there from 2000 to 2016. In 2017, I went with the marshal over to the marshal's office, Ramon Lampkin. I worked there for 8 years, and then I decided to run for sheriff and was elected sheriff last June, and became the sheriff in January of this year. I grew up in a small town, Estill, South Carolina. I went to college at Savannah State, where I graduated from college in 1992 with a degree in business management.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Here it is. I always thought that you were born and raised right here in the great state of I'm sorry, the great United States of Augusta.
No, sir. No, sir. I was actually born in Texas. My dad was in the military, stationed out at Fort Hood. His family is from Newark, New Jersey. So we moved back to Newark after about 2 years of living in Texas. And from there, we moved down south when I was 10 years old. I moved to Estill, South Carolina, graduated high school there in 1987 and started college in 87, where I played football for Savannah State from 87 to 91.
You were just down there in Savannah, hanging out at Savannah State, right? Did y'all just have homecoming?
Yes, we did. And we actually pulled off the win. So that was a good ending to a great week of homecoming. It's always good to go back and see so many familiar faces and those who you haven't seen in a long time to kind of reconnect. I went last year for the first time in about 6 or 7 years and enjoyed it. And so I decided to go back this year and had a blast.
Okay, very good. I love to see, through your Facebook and through all of the social media pages that both the sheriff office manages and your personal page, of course, just seeing you out and about in the community. Seems like you definitely stay on the go. You keep a busy schedule. How does that work for you? How do you manage that?
Well, before I became sheriff, I actually worked a lot, worked different jobs outside of my everyday job. And we call them extra duty or specials. And so in lieu of working specials now, I just typically go to different events. People may ask me to come and speak, or if it's typically something that's important to our community. and it involves our kids and different things of that nature, I'll try to show up and attend. And I also understand that it's very important to have a sheriff that's engaged in the community, because
Absolutely.
policing is about legitimacy, and you get that legitimacy from the community. And so the engagement with the community is very important. I learned that a long time ago. And so the more bridges that I can build within the community, the better off our agency is, and the better the rapport is between law enforcement and the community.
Absolutely, absolutely. Looks like we have some other alumni, SSU. Looks like Dana Thomas said, hello, SSU fam.
Hello, how you
See you
doing?
down in the comments. Thanks for tuning in and joining the conversation tonight. All right, so I want to jump right into it. Looking through Facebook, of course, in this era of social media, everyone's always posting, tagging. Nothing is slow and steady. Everything is quick and fast. And so when it comes to like events that happens right here in Augusta in the CSRA area, and just throughout the country, honestly, when something happens, like everyone runs to social media, right? So you get tagged in a lot of posts, and some of them are, kind of silly posts. Some are, more serious questions and so forth. How does it feel when it seems like the community is pulling on you so much, in so many different ways? How do you filter through that, and still be present, in your role, especially?
Well, being that I'm on Facebook, and so a lot of times, if people never tell you the things that you're doing bad, then you'll never get better. If people always tell you the good things that you're doing, and you never hear about the things that go awry or things that we don't do well, then we'll never be able to improve or get better. So typically when I'm on Facebook and I see things that people may post that cause a concern within our community, I typically will look into it or have someone within our agency look into it, because you want to get those things right. Or if it's not right, you want to be able to fix those areas of concern within the community. When we came in, we tried to be as transparent as possible. We tried to fix a lot of issues that we had within when it came to morale and different things of that nature, and just trying to change the culture within the sheriff's office. And so we've made a lot of changes. I feel like we've grown a lot. We still have a lot of obstacles and hurdles to cross, but for the most part, I feel as if we're getting there, one step at a time.
Well, I can definitely attest to the fact that you are way more transparent. You're way more visible, than some of the former sheriffs, especially that I know. Being that I'm from Augusta, born and raised here, and I can't ever remember a time that I've seen a sheriff, especially, that was as visible, and as also as approachable, as you are. And so definitely kudos to you. Coming in and doing just what you said you would, for as being available, being present, and involved. So I absolutely personally appreciate that, and I'm sure that so many of my neighbors right here in Augusta, feels the same way. That kind of segues us into exactly what I want to, spend a good bit of time talking about tonight. Is a lot of times, folks are asking things of you, asking for guidance, asking, hey, why do we have police over here? Why are y'all patrolling over here? Shouldn't y'all be worried about this, that, and the third? And every time that there's a violent act in our community, folks are pulling on you and asking more of you, right? What are some of the things that we as a community, as everyday citizens, can do to work alongside you and your department, to kind of assist us in moving to a safer Augusta?
I feel as if some of the things that we can do as parents and as adults when it comes to gun violence, it appears as if it's very prevalent in our community. I think we need to do a better job of locking our guns away when we're at home, taking our firearms in the house, not leaving them in the car, making sure we're locking our doors, because now we have an opportunity to open carry in public in the state of Georgia. So that automatically puts more firearms on the streets, and people typically have them in their cars. But when you step away from your car, or when you go in at night, even if you lock it in the glove box, or you lock your car door, it's best to take your firearm in the house and not leave it in the car. So that in case you forget to lock the door, and you see kids walking around and pulling on door handles, not just kids, adults, some adults out there doing this as well.
Right.
But because the laws have changed and now they allow you to carry firearms in public in an open manner, it puts more guns on the streets, and therefore, kids are more apt to, be able to find them or get their hands on them. So we just have to do a better job of securing them, having a gun box, putting a lock on our weapons, and just doing some of those things to help curb the trend that we see when it comes to violence and firearms.
Right. Are there programs that you've already implemented or that you're working on, pretty much around like educating gun owners of gun safety and being more responsible?
So we put on a few gun safety classes. We've had a few incidents this year where someone was showing a friend or a family member a gun who wanted to purchase a gun from them, and they accidentally shoot themselves, or they shot the person. And it happens more often than not. A lot of times we'll get a tone where someone has been shot, and we respond to the scene just to find out that the guy was attempting to buy the firearm, and then he shoots himself in the thigh, or he's shot his friend. And so gun safety is one of the things that, as an adult, if you have an opportunity to get into a gun safety course, then that's one of the things that I would encourage people to do. We offer them from time to time, and I know the marshal's office offer gun safety courses also.
Okay. And how do folks find that information? Just from the agency's website, or is there a particular contact?
Yeah, typically you can go to our agency's website and find out when we're putting those on, and our community relations division typically put those courses on. So yeah.
Okay. I know that there's a couple of different programs. One in particular, there that just had a graduation yesterday, was it? Can you tell us about that program?
Yeah, so we put on an 11-week course where the community is the Citizens Police Academy. So random people sign up to go through the academy. I can't think of about how many people it was, somewhere in between 12 and 15, I'd say. And they go through certain things that you would go through as a policeman to be certified. And it just kind of show them actually what the officers deal with on a day-to-day basis. They go through different training scenarios. They are taught how to fire weapons and different things that officers typically go through. So it just gives them a more in-depth look into the life of a police officer, and hopefully once they go through that, the appreciation for what the men and women who put on the uniform, that go out and risk their lives every day, go through. It just gives them a different appreciation for what they do.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. I think I'm about ready to sign up. Do you get to make citizens arrests?
Well, you can always
that's all I kind of want to do right now.
You can also make a citizen's arrest, but for the arrest to stand, like you cannot have gotten like a speeding ticket or anything within the last 2 or 3 years. So
oh, never mind. All right, that takes me out. That takes me out.
I think that's gonna be a
I
disqualifier.
got you. Okay. Okay, we coming with jokes tonight. I am a law-abiding citizen, and I am more than happy to follow the speed limit.
Absolutely.
Y'all out there,
Absolutely.
stay safe. All right. So also, I hear throughout the community all the time. Folk are saying crime is at an all-time high. Augusta's unsafe. It's unsafe downtown, and young folk are taking over this, that, and the third. From your perspective, how do you see crime, violence, violent crimes and so forth? How does that measure, and how do you quantify kind of where we were, maybe even when you took office, where we are today, and kind of what's happening with that? Put it into
Right.
perspective from your angle.
So statistically, we are leaps and bounds better than we were last year when it comes to our Part 1 crimes, which include robberies, burglaries, aggravated assaults, homicides, gun violence, just some of the more serious offenses is what we consider Part 1 crimes, robberies. And so, for example, last year, and I don't have the exact numbers, but I'll text someone and get them. But this time last year, we had maybe 10 or 11 more homicides than we have this year thus far. I know when the teenager was shot in the mall and murdered, basically, that was like the fourth event that where a teenager or a juvenile was involved. That same time last year, we had 6.
Wow.
But the fact that it happened in the mall and during the hours that the kids should have been in school just sort of made it, sort of raise an eyebrow, like what's going on? Like, shouldn't the kid had been in school, or the one who got shot, shouldn't he have been in school as well? And so I think the time that it happened, I think where it happened, kind of makes things appear to be more heightened than they necessarily are. But, people's perception is often their reality. So
correct.
We have to continue to make people feel that it's safer to go outside and it's safe to be downtown. And I think the measures that we've taken every Friday night, every Saturday night, to at least have officers on every block of Broad Street to make sure that when something happened, we can respond. We're out there with our blue lights. We're letting them know that, we're here. And sometimes that's not going to stop everything. But the national average for solving homicides is about 52 to 54%, I think. And right now we have close to a 90% rate that we've caught people and we've locked people up for those homicides. I think we have 2 or 3 this year that we haven't been able to make an arrest in. But even with the shooting that happened Monday night with the 2 teenagers, I was out there. I responded. Several of our units responded. We canvassed the neighborhood until we was able to identify who the suspect was, and we continued to look for him. And so that's the dedication that the men and women on our agency have. Like, we're not going to stop looking and searching and trying to solve some of these crimes. We've also been able to lock people up who've committed homicides 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And a few of them were right here in our community. That was just out and about from time to time. And so we came in, and I wanted it to be abundantly clear, like you cannot do things like that and just hang out
And
here in
get away
Augusta.
with it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. You talk a lot about when you're talking about the events that's been happening. We, um, and that stands out for me because we see that you are quite involved in a lot of these scenes. When we look at the images on the news, or the jail report, some of the media outlets and so forth. Even when hearing about the stories of you making an actual arrest at the Walmart over on Rice Road, I think maybe twice you've been involved in the past couple of months with something like that. How important is it for you to be out there with your deputies, with your investigators, and so forth, canvassing the scene and so forth?
Well, it's very important. A lot of times I get jokes where some of the people in the agency are like, "Man, Sheriff, you need to find another Walmart to go to."
Yeah, because I stopped going to Ricewell Road.
But anyway, I'm a people's person. I don't
Yeah,
mind having conversations with anybody. I mean, it don't
right.
matter what walk of life you're from.
Hmm.
And just yesterday when I was in Walmart getting some water, I ran into a young man who said, who stopped me, and he had dreads and he had a hat on and he had about three chains on around his neck.
Hmm.
And he's like, "Man, you're Gino, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir." He's like, man, my hat, I want to take my hat off and say, "Man, salute you. You're doing a great job."
Yeah.
And he said, "I moved here from Athens. I've been here, about 3 years." And he said, "Man, things were rough." And he said, is actually reassuring to know that you care and we see the work that you're doing. And he
Yeah.
said, now I can actually lay down at night and I'm not hearing gunshots every night
Wow.
that I try to, that I try to get some sleep.
Hmm.
And he said, like, I wish I could throw a cookout for you and your deputies, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, how about this? I said, how about instead of throwing a cookout, why don't you just come when we throw cookouts for the
Yeah.
community? Just come
Yeah.
down and interact with us.
Yeah.
And he said, well, sir, I don't have a car. I have to catch a
Hmm.
ride. And so
Hmm.
for somebody who don't even have a vehicle
Yeah.
that's willing to, stop and engage in a conversation and say, hey man, I'd
Hmm.
like to do something for you and your deputies because you're doing an
Yeah.
outstanding job.
Right.
Those are the types of conversations that mean so much,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
typically you think is certain people who will stop you and have the conversations, but
Hmm.
that's why I enjoy going there, man, because I'm a normal person. I don't
Yeah.
mind conversating. Sometimes
Hmm.
I go in the store and I'd be like, "Man, like, hey, I got to go. I'm running late," and
Yeah.
I just have
I
to
can
cut it
relate to
off, But
that.
I don't mind talking, and I don't mind
Yeah.
being around people. So
Right.
that's just kind of who I am.
Yeah. That has to be, a noble feeling. That obviously everyday average people walking up to you, telling you, "Hey, you're doing a great job." Does it always feel that way for you, though?
Sometimes, I question whether we're getting it right. It's one thing to be right; it's another thing to get it right. A lot of
Right.
times we focus on being right and we get it
Hmm.
wrong. And so I
Right.
always tell people it's more important to get it right than to be right. And
Hmm.
so it's like if I pull somebody over and every time I caught them speeding or they run a red light or they do something, I write them a citation.
Hmm.
I would be doing the right thing by doing that. But if I can be more relatable to them by saying, ma'am, slow down. These are our streets. Fatalities are at an all-time high. We're doing this, we're doing that. So would you please
Yeah.
just slow it down? And
Hmm.
if they walk away saying, he could have been mean spirited, he could have written me a ticket.
Hmm.
So maybe I will slow down. When it comes to fatalities, last year, I remember being in the sheriff's academy, and
Mm-hmm.
the guy from the governor's office of highway safety came in, and he gave us these booklets, and it
Mm-hmm.
tells you for with every county that you're in, how many fatalities you have, how many accidents you have, how many were caused by speeders, how many were caused by DUI, different things like that. We ranked in the top 10
Oh,
in
wow.
every category. Now there's 159 counties
Counties in
in
Georgia,
Georgia.
yeah.
159. We ranked in the top 10 in every major statistic, and that stood out to
Mm-hmm.
me. So
Right.
when we came in, we were able to get a heat grant,
Mm-hmm.
where the governor's office of highway safety
Y'all sharp
paid
too with
for
those heat grants. Yeah. Those
paid for
vehicles.
three paid for 3 cars, outfitted them, and paid for their salaries. So that went a long way to helping us bring the fatalities down to under 60%. We're 60% better fatality wise than we were this time last year. So every fatality
Wow.
represents a life. So
Saved, yeah.
we've saved at least 16 to 17 lives thus far by, aggressively patrolling the streets. And,
Right.
sometimes people complain and say, man, they're doing too much. Every time we turn around, it's blue lights, it's blue lights. But when it's your family member, if it's
Yeah.
somebody you love, life that's at risk or that's taken,
We wish
then
that
you
someone would have.
understand the
Yeah.
severity of it. And so
Right.
we just try to proactively go out and help make the community aware of what we're doing.
Right. Well, so seeing that the community is more aware, you all are visible, your deputies, your you know, is it community engagement? Is
Yes.
okay. I see them in the schools. I see them, having conversations with the youth and so forth. What more is needed from the community for our involvement with the youth, with reaching them, with relating and so forth?
So it's like a 3 or 4 prong answer. Like,
Hmm.
you need the parents to be
Yeah.
parents and to
Right.
parent these kids, to not just want to be their friends and let them do and dictate what goes on in the house. That's the most important thing.
Right.
But then we have to follow that up as a community and support the parents
Hmm.
and support them at school.
Hmm.
And the school has to be involved to make sure that the kids are doing, what's necessary to, if they're not coming to school, to reach out to the board of
Hmm.
education or truancy officer, make sure we try to locate them and find out why they aren't in school.
Right.
And then we need the churches and the stakeholders within the community to do their part. There are a lot of churches that do a lot of great things,
Hmm.
but there are a lot of churches that don't do much of anything.
Right.
And
Right.
so we all have, a place and a part that we can play in making sure we support the family and the
Hmm.
kids as much as we can. I
Right.
just, as recently as Tuesday, had a conversation with a pastor, a recreation director, and someone who's um, very well recognized within the community, trying to
Hmm.
put something together on Saturday nights where the kids can come to for free, and we feed them, we pay
Hmm.
for everything. All they got to do is show up. So we're trying
Wow.
to do something um, fun for them, but it also gives us an opportunity to interact with them, to have some meaningful conversations, because at the end of the day, you got to have that interaction and you got to get them involved. You got to meet them somewhere. And so through basketball, through movie nights, whatever it takes to, be able to have a sit down conversation with them is what we are trending to.
Right. Well, and when we talk about, the youth and talk about parent involvement and so forth, I used to work for a Department of Family and Children Services, right here in Richmond County, and um, not all children have parents, have a mom and dad. A lot of them, are in the system and they've kind of been bounced around, in foster care and so forth. Is there a partnership in place, or have you had an opportunity to partner with, like, with DFACS, Department of Family and Children Services, with, kind of reaching the children that are throughout the system as well?
So I think the misconception is with the sheriff's office is like a lot of people feel like it's like my job to raise their kids, and
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
it's my job as the sheriff to make sure there's like law and order. We're not living
order.
in such a lawless society.
Hmm.
Um, but we're here to offer support. We're here to educate when
Hmm.
possible, because we deal with a lot of gang violence, a lot of gun violence. So we have a gang task force here in our agency who
Hmm.
goes out and talks to kids and try to steer them away from the gang violence. Um, as recently as 2 weeks ago, we spent 2 days at the alternative school talking to kids in the alternative school about joining gangs and doing things that are going to
Right.
end them up in jail. And so
Hmm.
we'd rather talk to them in school
Right.
than have to talk
Proactively.
to them once they're locked up. And
Right.
so, people often use the phrase, it takes a village to raise a kid.
Hmm.
And that was true. And
Right.
and but the people in the village has changed. They're not the same.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can't put your hand on nobody else's kid. You can't say
Yeah.
now,
Or even say
even if
anything
you
to them.
say something to
Yeah.
somebody else's
Yeah.
kid, there's a problem. So the way
Right.
we were raised back in the day is not the same way
Hmm.
we can raise kids now. Because when I got in trouble up the street, man, I would get a beating from them. They would call my parents, and my parents would beat me when I got home. And I mean, it
And
was
everywhere
expected.
along the way.
Right, right. It was expected. But now you can't even talk to kids. You can't. Oh, don't say nothing to my child. And so raising kids is different
Yeah.
than what it used to be.
Hmm.
I met your pops twice, and
Hmm.
he looked like he didn't play back back then.
Back
Uh,
then, age
so
ain't slowed them down.
okay then, and so but that's what we're missing. We're missing
Yeah.
fathers who was
We're
there when the
present.
kids were coming up and growing up and being a part of their
Yeah.
lives. So
Right.
um, and so having mentors and
Hmm.
getting kids involved in mentoring programs and having the right mentors is very important. So you can
Right.
try to break those barriers and show them and teach them what respect is. And I think that's the biggest thing. If we can
Hmm.
teach our young kids to respect life, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
like it's so easy for them to go and shoot someone and not have respect for life. And so I
Yeah. No remorse
oftentimes
even.
say, we have to work on how we respond to things instead of
Right.
reacting to them. We need to learn to respond. And nowadays, our
Right.
kids just don't have the wherewithal to deal with any kind of conflict. Like,
Right.
their emotional intelligence is just not there. And
Right.
that piece, when they get upset, they're not thinking straight, they're not
Crashing
thinking
out.
properly. But I can tell you how many times I've walked by an interview room, just like they have on the first 48, and see the kids in there with their heads down, like after they've done something they have no business.
Yeah.
But at that point, I
Too
mean,
late.
it's too late. Your
Yeah.
life is
Yeah.
gone, their life is gone. Your mom is without a son or child because now you're in the system. So
Right.
we just have to do what's necessary to get them to be a little more mindful and be a little more respectful of life itself.
Right. And you have the gang task force and so forth. And I think also throughout the state, like there's a lot of resources, kind of focusing on gang activity and so forth. And I hear all the time people say, "Oh, this is Augusta. These aren't real gangs. These are fly-by-night gangs." How serious of a problem are gangs right here in the CSRA? And should parents, really be worried? And how do they even know what to look for?
It's a problem. It's not just a problem here in Augusta or in the CSRA. It's a problem everywhere. You pick up. I was gonna say you pick up the newspaper, but
Yeah,
if you look
nobody
online,
doing that no more.
right. But when you look online, you see it happening everywhere more and more and more often than not, where gangs and groups are, maybe they used to say the wannabe gangs are worse than the gangs themselves
Yeah,
because they're trying to make a name for themselves. And so gang violence is very, very dangerous, and it's here. It's here. But we're trying to combat it. Like I said, we're out in the schools. We're trying to have meaningful conversations with the kids. Not just kids. It's some adults as well.
right.
But we're trying to steer the kids away from gangs. We're trying to find out what drives them, what motivates them to want to be in a gang, and how can we steer them away from wanting to be in gangs and be a part of gangs.
Gotcha. So we talk a lot about, the involvement of parents and getting them to, be more present and so forth. If let's say I'm a parent, which I am, but of course I have babies, toddlers, but I'm a parent of a teenager, young boy, let's say, and teenage son who's, exhibiting some of the signs that I'm kind of seeing when I do my research on gangs and so forth. What's step one for me? What do I do? I've tried to talk to him. I asked him about it just straight out. He denies it, X, Y, and Z. What else can I do as a parent? What should I do?
Well, there are mentoring groups that you can look into or look at. I'm trying to create an avenue for parents, single parents, or just any parent who's having trouble with their sons or daughters, for that matter, and give them an avenue that we can address some of the issues that they're dealing with.
Right.
But the resources that we have are limited. I'm sure you're aware. Right now, we're going through the budget process, and I was elected as sheriff, but the budget that I'm working off of was the budget from the previous administration.
Okay.
And right now, they're asking us to cut the budget, and so if there wasn't any money to kind of do a lot for youth or a lot of things with the community, then it's just hard to come up with programs,
funding,
because everything is kind of centered around having the availability, and if you don't have the funds to fund whatever you're trying to do, then it's not going to be available. So we're trying to reach or trying to get the recreation department to kind of go in with us, and I'll provide the security, y'all provide the building, and trying to get some of the stakeholders within the communities to kind of fund and help pay for like the food and the DJ or just different things like that. And so that's how we come together and provide services for the community and for our children, and that will give us an opportunity to have conversations with them.
Right. Do you have a pretty good rapport, since of course being sheriff, but with, let's say, our business leaders and entrepreneurs in the community? Are they reaching out to you saying, hey, we want to donate our services, our time, our resources, and X, Y, and Z? And if not, is that something that that we could step up on?
So we've been, or I've been fortunate to be able to talk with some business owners. Most of them
Mm-hmm.
that I've talked to are willing to help. A lot of them have
Mm-hmm.
reached out to help. But we have a lot of businesses in and around our community that can do more. And the more
Mm-hmm.
people we can get involved, the less you would have to donate or give. And
Right.
so,
Right.
like I said, we're trying to come up with an antidote to kind of help us offset some of the costs of doing some of the things that we want to do for the community. But
Right.
as sheriff, I'm going to do my part. Regardless of relationships
Mm-hmm.
or um, how things may appear um,
Mm-hmm.
or actually are,
Yeah.
when it's for our kids, I got time. I'll typically find time to
Yeah.
show up for the kids. So
Mm-hmm.
um, like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about our community and our
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Right. I love to hear, and I do have, a lot of friends, throughout the business community and entrepreneurs and so forth that are doing great work, within, our community, but, it doesn't seem like it's really reached the masses that are really in need of some of these services. And of course, all that's going on in the economy and with this government shutdown and all of this uncertainty that's out there. Of course, folks are looking for ways to kind of give more of themselves and so forth. But I definitely want to stay tuned and find any way that I can use my platform to kind of get some of that support where it needs to be, especially with this initiative that you're hoping to kind of get up and running. I think it's a great opportunity for folk to get the help that they need with these children of our future. And it always feels like we're in great hands, but I think that with the work, like you said, and kind of pulling together as a community, as a team, we can at least get them, the support and resources that they need. So I'm committed to that. Absolutely, getting my friends in the communities, my entrepreneur friends and business owners and so forth. Um, what is if there was two things right now that anybody who's watching this live this conversation or joining in could do right away, what would be two of those things to kind of just help and support your agency and our community, like just the average day citizens of Augusta?
So, as I mentioned earlier, right now it's a critical time with our government because of some of the things we're dealing with as far as the budget process. We're going through talking about a SPLOS package where that's a sales tax where that money is typically allocated for different things. And so I would ask, people to get involved, to make smart choices and just make sure um, we understand what's going on within our community. Um, it's it's hard to get people to see how important it is to go to the polls and to vote, so that their voice is heard. And a lot of times people don't feel as if they have a voice because of how things sometimes turn out. And
Yeah,
when it don't go
their
their
guy
way,
doesn't win. Yeah.
when it don't go their way, they feel as if their vote doesn't count. Well,
Right.
you have to continue to show up. You got to continue
Hmm.
to vote. And so I would say, one, get involved with the process. Make sure you're voting. Make sure you're aware of what's going on, because regardless of what goes on the national level, our local government impacts you more than you know. And
Absolutely.
so that's why it's very important to do that. And I always
Hmm.
say that regardless of how much you have to give, or if you don't have anything to give, you can always donate your time
Right.
and to something that's, helpful. So
Yeah.
those are the two things that I would say. One, get involved with your government, understand and know exactly what's going on. Make sure you go vote, because that's very important. Within our community, a lot of us don't vote because we've kind of lost hope and trust with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
process. But
Right.
if you don't vote, you won't be allowed to vote
Yeah.
because of how they started to purge the
The
voting,
yeah,
the
the
voter
roles.
registration. So
Yeah.
that's very important. You don't ever want to lose your voice. And
Right.
when I was running and I would, talk to people and I would try to encourage them to vote for me, I would always be discouraged when someone says, "Oh, I don't vote," and I'm like, people died for that right
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you have to vote. And so here it goes. It revolves and it goes right back to, if we're not affected by it, then it really don't matter to us.
Right.
Like I said, it takes us being affected by it somehow before it starts to matter to us, and that
Right.
can't be our approach.
That's right. I didn't want to dig too much into politics because I can go all night. However,
Mhm.
what I do, how political, or is it ever a challenge for you, or has it been so far a challenge at any point? Some of our local, government dealings, and I don't want to say politicians, but does politics cross over into your line of work and kind of create any challenges for you? Aside from, of course, them working through the budget and so forth. But I know that through the media, sometimes, of course, in the media, you take it with a grain of any story or conversation that you see there. But they like to kind of, put you up against some of the other political elected officials, I should say, throughout the community. But, does that ever create a challenge for you?
Not really. Like I said, I always try to do what I feel is right, and
Hmm.
I feel as if you're doing whatever you're doing for the right reason. It doesn't matter politically whether you are Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're independent, or where you stand at on different issues. Because
Right.
I've had some friends that voted a certain way, and I vote a certain way, and we don't always see eye to eye on certain things, but
Hmm.
we're still like best friends. So the
Right.
fact that he wanted to support this person and
Hmm.
I'm supporting this person, how can I get mad at him because he don't support the person that I'm supporting? You
Right.
know,
Right.
it gives him the same opportunity to be mad with me because I'm
That's
not
right.
doing what he wants. I mean, so and a lot of times people will, kind of take things and kind of blow them out of proportion.
Hmm.
Last night at our Citizens Academy,
Hmm.
Jared was the guest speaker, and he
Our
came
district
and spoke.
attorney.
Yeah, right, Jared
Uh-huh.
Williams, and he did a great job, and he kind of put a
Hmm.
spin on his presentation. And I told him, I said,
Hmm.
man, I never looked at doing it that way, and so
Hmm.
it kind of enlightened me to look at things in a different manner. But
Right.
just because, and I'll share this with you, like me and Jared has talked several times,
Hmm.
and I tell people, just because we
Well, because
don't
in your line
agree,
of work, you do communicate quite
right,
often, or
right,
not really? Okay. Okay.
right, we
Okay.
do talk, and but people feel like if you can't agree on something, like that's the end. That's
Yeah.
not the end of the world. Like
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
going to agree on everything. Like we're not going to see
Hmm.
things eye to eye. Like I'm going to do some things that he may not
It doesn't mean that there's
agree
no
with.
beef there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so I don't want people to think like I hate, like I hate Jared. I'm like, because I don't. Like I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't raised to just hate somebody because they
Right.
have a difference of opinion, and
Of
that's the
opinion.
mindset that we have to get away from. Like we don't always
Hmm.
have to see eye to eye, but I will
Right.
always show up. I will always have respect your opinion, and would ask that you have that same respect for my opinion. So it's just, both our jobs are, we're actually on the same team. We're both trying to remove the bad element out of our community. Sometimes we have a different way to get there. And I told someone the other day, like when I went to Savannah, I could have gone through Burke County. I could have went into Beach Island and went through the Savannah River site back into my hometown of Elsel and went that way. Or I could have went through Hampton County and hit 95 and went that way. So there's a lot of different ways
arrive at the same place,
get to the same destination. And just because we have a difference of opinion from time to time doesn't mean that we're, like we don't like each other. We hate each other. Like, it's just, it's just a conversation. And I wish like that piece, that part of it, like some of us as grown people would grow up and understand like it's okay to have a difference of opinion. That don't mean, I can't, when I see you, I'm gonna speak to you and say, hey, and I just think that part of us as humans that, that shows that we don't have the growth that we need to be as adults, so we can disagree.
I think that, absolutely. And we're kind of in this day and age, where folks feel like if it ain't no drama, then there's nothing there. No, there's more there going on. There's conversations to be had. There's some involvement necessary, but it seems like if it's not drama, no one's really, paying it any attention. They take things out of context, they throw it out, they create these, crazy narratives, and honestly, that runs faster than the truth.
So drama sells, violence sells. Anytime you turn on the news or you turn on Facebook or any social media outlet, whether they're fighting in Waffle House or they're shooting at this, like that's what people want to see. And so, I try not to focus my attention on some of those things. And I kind of, when people send them to me, I kind of say, why? When you share it, like when someone posted a video of 2 or 3 people yelling out of the car that I watched.
Let me take but I got them views though, because I'm trying to get my followers back up on the secondary page. Man, go ahead, and I'm pulling up.
And so that's what I'm saying. A lot of times
that's how you draw the crowd.
Instead of people intervening, to stop something, they pull their phone out because it's all about the likes and it's all about this. And so that's what we need to change. We need people to get involved to stop promoting the bad things, and stop wanting to do things for likes and clicks. And be a part of the change, like they say, be the change that you want to see in others. And you can't do that.
That's kind of difficult sometimes too. You just talked about, how the village has changed, right? No, you're absolutely right. And you're right as to, like, for instance, me personally, when I post certain things or whatever, that's how I get the audience. Honestly, that's how I probably built my platform originally. But even taking that to another side, though, is we talked about the village. You can't really talk to people, kids, and so forth. You can't almost intervene in anything in people's lives nowadays without, you got to have your 9 on the right, your 45 in the other hand, you got to be ready to get down with the get down. If you say, hey, that's not right. Hey, stop that, cut that out. So, how do we as a society, kind of fix that? How do we get involved and not have to worry about?
Well, when we are recording it, when we grab our phone and we start doing this, it's like we're promoting the bad behavior.
I got you.
And so I'm just saying, like, that's one of the things that I wish, we would not be so quick to want to promote things that we don't want to see happen. We'll say, that's bad, but we sitting there recording it, knowing it's the wrong thing to do, And so it just takes, it takes a lot. And a lot of times I would find myself sitting there like watching different videos of foolishness, And someone told me, said, man, Sheriff, you're doing such a great job, man. What you should have ran for sheriff 10 years ago. But to be honest, I had a lot of growing to do, man. Like I wasn't where I am now,
Yeah.
mentally, focused on what needed to be done. And
Right.
so 4 years ago,
Wow.
I wasn't where I needed to be mentally to be able to step into this role
Right.
and embrace it and want to grow and learn and
Mm-hmm.
do better, because I still had a lot of things a lot of ways about myself that, I had to change to get to where I'm at. And I had to go through a lot of stuff to get to where I'm at. I was overlooked for different things, but I feel like everything I went through it for a reason. And it's because I
Yeah.
went through it, God allowed me to be elevated to where I am now. And so I don't
Speak a
take
word,
that,
sir.
I don't take that for light.
Yeah.
Um, I just try to embrace it and
Mm-hmm.
do what I'm supposed to do, because I feel like he gave me a great opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to be a bright light in our community. So
Right.
I have to take that light. Bible says, let your light shine so that others can see. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm trying to do, man. Trying to make a positive impression and be a light so that others can see some of the great works that we are doing and want to be a part of it.
Right. Absolutely. Listen, you dropped in some gems, and I'm listening. Now, of course, I'm a host, a comedian, a singer, all of those things. So I'm gonna make my check, but but that gives me, but maybe I'll take more pause sometimes
Well,
when something's popping off, which ain't often because anybody know me, something pop off, I'm out of there.
right.
Back in the day,
Well,
I used to be a fighter, but
uh,
having kids changes you a lot.
Towers. Like I would tell you this. Um, Oftentimes I'll scroll through Facebook and I'll see something you post and I'll stop and I'll read it and I'll be saying to myself like, man, this dude got a problem,
Yeah.
but it's funny and it's humor and
Yeah.
and so that's and like I said, it's authentically who you are. And so
Yeah.
when you're not
Yeah.
trying to be something that you're not, that
Yeah.
kind of turns people off and takes them away
Disingenuous.
from the message. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, man,
Thank you.
I
I
see it.
appreciate
And,
that.
we all need a laugh. And
Yeah.
from the time I saw you at the SBA's,
SBAs.
it's
Uh
right. The first time, man, I think I laughed so much. I was like, good.
huh.
And so,
The first time you were there was at the Savannah Rapids, right?
right, right.
Yeah.
And
I think
so
I
then,
screwed your name up about 6 times.
but when it came to the last one that we had,
Double
I
tree.
was right, right. I was like, man, I hope he's there and he's hosting again, because nobody want to sit through something for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's just kind of ho hum, like
Yeah.
like God, it's just dry. So that
Right.
comedy, that comedy part of it
Yeah.
actually drives the show and
Oh wow.
actually makes it what it is, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that. And so that's why, I kind of reached out and say, hey man, why don't you, get your podcast going? And,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind coming on and just, giving my part or my
Hmm.
just sharing my views on some of the things that we can do
Hmm.
differently here in our community.
Right. Well, I listen. I absolutely appreciate you sharing with us tonight, with sharing with me, pouring into me, and absolutely appreciate you reaching out to me because that kind of um, reignited this desire to do more in this community that I absolutely love. I love everything about Augusta. I've lived in Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Alabama, Virginia, all these places. Way larger than Augusta, but there's just something about home, right? And so this is home for me, and I want to do my part. And knowing that I have, done the work to kind of build this audience and platform and so forth, it's important to me to use that as best I can for this community that I absolutely love, especially now having kids, girl daughters, a 2-year-old and soon to be 1-year-old. I want this to be a better community for them when, when they start going out into the world and so forth. And so thank you for, kind of challenging me to kind of get back into it and stop procrastinating, because I keep saying, hey, I'm gonna jump back out there, I'm gonna do this and do that. But I've accepted, more than enough engagements over the next 30 days. So I'm definitely staying busy, but I'm looking forward to, just all that I can do to partner with you, your agency. I know a lot of good people that's working for you that I've worked with throughout the community and on a lot of different things. And so you have a lot of men and women that I absolutely respect. Not the ones that wrote me a ticket, but no, I'm just kidding. We done got that taken care of, so we squared away. But
while standing in that long line at the courthouse
twice, because I was like, take it to trial. Shout out to Judge Pound and everyone else who kind of gave me a little word. But I want to say absolutely, Sheriff, thank you for all that you're doing to pour out your heart. You're human, and we see the human. I see the human element at play here. And I take you at your word because I see your work. And so the people can tell you anything, when they're out during election season and, when they're out campaigning and, out trying to get a promotion, X, Y, Z, folks will tell you anything. I work in human resources. So, I hear all kinds of stories all day, but what people do is what really matters to me. And you're doing a heck of a good job from my, angle at least. And I'm excited to get to work. So thank you for creating an opportunity for us in the community to be a part of it. Give us some closing words for the community, of course, until we come back again.
All right. So I would just like to encourage those in our community to, when you see something, say something. You can always be a part of the solution, and you don't always have to be a part of the problem or not want to engage in things that's going to benefit you and your community. So if you have an opportunity to reach out to me or talk to me, or if you see me out and about, by all means, come up and talk to me. I love to hear what your concerns are within your neighborhood, because without you, we will not be able to grow or get better. So only hearing from you makes us better. So I would love to hear what you all have to say and what your concerns are within your communities.
All right. Well, you all have heard it here on the Tyrus Tillman Show, directly from the mouth of our top law enforcement officer here in Richmond County, Sheriff Eugene Gino The Rock Brantley. Every time I say all of that, I feel like you're about to come out into the ring, like with those guns. You got them guns going on. I'm even getting a little nervous, to be honest. No, I'm kidding. But we heard it right here from our sheriff, right here in Richmond County. Thank you so much, Sheriff, and thank you to all of our viewers tonight for tuning in. Of course, as we continue to build back up this platform and so forth, we'll definitely be able to continue to reach the community and get out there and be involved. And so we will see you all soon. Thank you so much, Sheriff. Have a great night, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Thank you.